Jaspal, Dean of Social Science at Quaid-i-Azam University, Islamabad. Professor Zafar will address global security initiatives and its impact on world's geopolitical situations. So please welcome Professor Zafar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Governor staff, organizers from 3R, I'm very much grateful for providing me this opportunity. When we look about the transformation in the global politics, we find that there's a big transition has been taking place. The Western unipolarity is giving way to multipolarity. President Xi and President Putin are very much seem determined in this global dynamics. So when we look about these American and Chinese strategic contests, we find that they are very much influencing the global politics. The recent developments indicate that Beijing is determined to prevent Washington's political military arrangements to check the China's rise. And in this context, the American and Chinese have came up with their global strategic vision, or what we call it, global security initiative. I'm going to address two questions. One is, what is global security initiative and how we look at it? And second is, how global security initiative received and responded by the international community. So having said this, when we look about this global initiative, President Xi's vision and efforts for global development, peace and security through diplomacy, economic cooperation are enshrined in the three interlinked initiatives. 2022 Global Security Initiative, or prior to that, 2021 Global Development Initiative, and then follow up last year, 2023 Global Civilizational Initiative. All these initiatives are very much, you can say, overlapping, but the Global Security Initiative makes a lot of difference. What is the primary concept of this Global Security Initiative? It advocates the concept of indivisible security, which believes the security of any country is indispensable from others in the region, and that no single nation's security should come at the expense of the others. This concept of indivisible security we had already seen when there was the Helsinki Accord between the Russians and the Americans in 1975 during the Cold War. Interestingly, when we trace the global security initiative's evolution or a background, we find that the Chinese have been working on it. For instance, in 1997, they came up with the concept, the new security concept. Later concepts also referred as a universal security, and increasingly as invisible and cooperative security, which promoted to centrality of the United Nations and United Nations Charter, emphasizing the multipolarity, multi-security architectures, cooperation, dialogue, and giving a way against the collective security or alliance politics. It advocates 6 different ways, precisely when we look about it, but the most important emphasis of this global security initiative is that to emphasize and work according to the United Nations Charter. It's a very interesting saying that what the liberalist economic world or liberalist democratic world after 1945 was articulating, now President Xi is articulating through his global security initiative. Now in this context, when he was emphasizing on the side of, you can say, United Nations Charter, at the same time, it was bridging a gap between the traditional and non-traditional security and advocating to address through consensus new emerging challenges or existing challenges like terrorism, climate change, cybersecurity, and biosecurity. I think it's a big thing when we talk about the biosecurity in the modern time. He warned, a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Therefore, there's need to have a global security initiative which opposes the Cold War mentality, unilateralism, bloc confrontation, and hegemonism. In this context, when we look about this dialogue, we find that after the initiative, we have seen the Chinese did a good work when there was an rapprochement engineered by the Chinese in March 2023 between the Saudi Arabia and Iran. In this global security initiative, they have also recommended in 2022 and again when it was republicized the concept in 2023, two-state solution even of a Palestine crisis, even prior to the start of Gaza war in October. So by this way we can find that they also recommended Russian and Ukrainian settlement through the dialogue. Anyway, now my second part is global development and how the world is moving and where we adjusted. I think this era of soft power, or too much using the narrative of soft power, is giving way to hard power once again. So in 2024, we find intensifying geostrategic instead of geoeconomics in the contemporary political world order. A kind of offensive seems in the offing in the contemporary international politics. Third, states and societies are moving towards more aggressive foreign policies as evidenced by the actions of Russians, Chinese, Americans, and India in our neighborhood. So what we can find, the contemporary political world order or a global world geopolitics is very much governed by the logic of power rather than the logic of, you can say, commerce, or by the logic of conflict, which is very much a zero-sum arrangement. So having said this, what is the Western nations or the American-led world response to it? It has disturbed the Western nations because they interpreted GSI as a challenge to the Western-led global governance system and alternative to US international world order. Global Security Initiative is a component of larger push to establish a post-Western multipolar world and set global agenda that reflect the interests and values like other great powers. China pursues the national interest, but as a rising superpower, it also seeks as a step to establish its global leadership. It delegitimized the United States' collective and highly material security approach. So unlike the United States, security order, the Global Security Initiative links security with the development and emphasis on non-traditional security issues. But what is the outcome of this conflict? We find Pax Americana versus Pax Senecia in the civilizational dialogue or deployment. But what is the outcome further? This Pax Senecia versus Pax Americana has regenerated the alliances politics, and in that case, the reference point is extension of the NATO, joining of these Finland and Sweden, and NATO is now 32 countries. Alliance, and today it is having its 75th anniversary in Washington. It also given a rise to Quad, AUKUS, I2U2, and strengthened NATO Plus in Asia Pacific, and created a further dimension, what the Chinese say to the NATO, this Quad, that it's an Asian version of the NATO. So by this way, when we look about what are the alternative sort of a thing, you would find recently, on 19 June 2024, President Putin and Chairman Kim of North Korea signed a future partnership. That is a very important, and in which they agreed to work together against the external aggression. But on the other side, if you see today, what is happening in Washington, in addition to 32 countries of the NATO member, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and South Korea leaders are attending the Alliance 75th anniversary, which also demonstrate in the last 3 years that their participation. Please keep in your mind, there is a very challenging point. In 2022, NATO declassified a strategic concept which declared China as a, first time they gave a reference to the China as a strategic contender. And from there onward, we have seen 2023 and today 2024, the same mindset is there, and that's why it's very significant. But let me draw your attention towards this declaration of NATO's 2022 strategic concept. It was exactly after 21st April 2022 when this President Xi announced Global Security Initiative. So when I look about these things, what my understanding of it is, in a conclusion, I have identified 4 points. First, China's Global Security Initiative seems a benign for the nation's diplomatic, economic, security and civilization progress because it cultivates a network of friendly international regional relationships. Second, the Cold War mentality, regional global hegemonism and power politics threaten world peace, prosperity. Therefore, Global Security Initiative is a remarkable bulwark against the militaristic policies of the United States and allies. GSI emphasizes partnership over alliances and advocates that the disputes could be resolved through dialogue instead of the use of force. Therefore, it's in the best interest of the nations, including Pakistan, which is very much advocating neutrality in international politics. My final point here is that it is equally important to prevent escalation of conflicts in 5 nuclear flashpoints. So GSI is good to prevent conflicts in a first nuclear flashpoint, which we call it Kashmir. It's good to prevent second Korean Peninsula, third Ukraine, European flashpoint, fourth Taiwan, and fifth Gaza war. My final submission is that is Global Security Initiative also supports United Nations Security Council Resolution 1540, which demands to use the legislated domestic laws for the prevention of the chemical, biological, nuclear, and biological terrorism within the state, or preventing these kind of weapons falling in the hands of the non-state actors. Finally, I can say Global Security Initiative is good for addressing traditional and non-traditional security challenges in the global politics. Thank you very much.